Welcome in. It is day 90 and you're speaking with the Meeples Champion. Today, on October 8th, we're going to be jumping into another one of my Halloween theme adjacent games. This one is a very specific lore that a lot of people are either really into or really against, or you got the down the middles that just don't particularly care. That lore is Cthulhu, and the game is Unspeakable Words. So Unspeakable Words is a pretty straightforward game. The concept is everybody starts with 7 cards. These cards will have letters on them and numbers for a value. They'll also start with 5 Cthulhu pawns. These represent your sanity. So when it's your turn, you're going to use however many letters you can to spell a word. You're going to get a score for that word, and you'll write that score down. At the same time, you're going to roll a 20-sided die. Depending on the score of the word, you're going to have to roll equal to or higher than that score in order for you to not lose a sanity. So if you write a word that's worth 12, you're going to have to roll a 12 to 20 on that 20-sided die. 11 or lower, you have to lose a pawn. Now, everybody's going to keep doing this. At the end of your turns, you always draw back up to 7. And the goal is 100 points. If you ever lose all 5 of your sanity, then you're out. You're knocked out. Or depending on how you might play with variance, you just lose either all or half your points, get back your 5, and you continue. However, when somebody finally makes a word that the points being scored are going to get their total score to 100, that would be a winning turn. On a winning turn, when you roll the die, you have to pass your sanity check. If you don't, you do not get the points of that score. So you'll lose a sanity and you'll lose that particular scoring points. So the idea being that you want to try to get as close to 100 as you can so you can make a really small word so you're not worried about trying to roll, 12 or higher, 14, 15. If you can get a word that's only worth 3 or 4 points and be able to hit 100, that's a lot better. Once somebody has managed to hit 100, pass their sanity check, they win on the spot, game over. It's pretty straightforward. It's a fun little game. But why don't we jump in and let's talk about our categories. The art is really nice for this game. I feel like the box definitely gets across the point of it's obviously a game about cards with letters, with numbers. It's definitely Cthulhu based. You're getting that from the coloring. And I think that the cards themselves and the little minis all sell that as well. It's a nice little set of art. It's nothing I think is amazing. It's just, it sells itself well enough. Now, am I going to go pick this game out because of the art? I think that if you're a Cthulhu fan, this box art will sell it. And I think if you're into games about, spelling, if you're a big Scrabble fan, you're looking for something a little bit more in-depth, then you're going to see that this game clearly is in that direction. So I think it's okay. It's a pass for me, but it is close. It's not great art. It's just good art. The components are only 3 things. You have a 20-sided die, which is perfectly fine. You have all of your little Cthulhu minis, which is great. And you have your cards, which I've had this game for over a decade, and they've held up really well. So until I see those start to deteriorate, I can't say anything bad about them. It's a thumbs up. The price is acceptable. This game isn't going to go for huge money. Now, this is not one you're going to find in stores anywhere these days. I've not seen this on a shelf in a long time. So maybe it gets driven up a little bit because it's rarer. But if you can go find this, I can't imagine this game going for more than like $30, maybe $35. It's not a lot in that box, and that's an acceptable price. If you're finding this for $40 or higher, I start to question if you should get it. And in general, though, I do think this is going to be extremely hard to find. And that's where I have to give it a thumbs down. Price doesn't matter much if you can't get it. And unfortunately, when you're in a world like today where you see games are not being reprinted, It tends to be that when they're not reprinted, to buy it, doesn't matter if it should be going for 30 or 35. People are selling it more expensive because they know it's a hard game to get. I don't think this is a hard game to play. On our 4 levels, I think the experts, the experienced, and the beginners are all going to be great at this game. It's not going to be something that's hard to jump into. It's, I think, especially good for those beginners and those experienced players, because beginners, it's a great game to kick off with. You're spelling and you're rolling a die. That's it. Whereas your experienced players are going to say like, oh yeah, this is a great one I can play with friends who are trying to get into the craft. The expert players may not want to play this as often, but it's a good one for their family or friends who don't join in on their game nights. Kids, it just depends on the kid. I think 10 years old and older should be fine with spelling, so the concept of having to be careful with the spelling of words with points, it should be okay. So I'm going to say this is thumbs up for the difficulty. This is a replayable. It goes really fast. You're going to play this game in like 30 minutes max. So I think being able to take this game out and immediately play it back to back isn't easy. And this plays 2 to 6. I think that you're going to find this for families. It'll be a great like Saturday morning for some kids, or a Friday night for families. We'll be able to play 2 or 3 games in a row. I think for friends, this may not come out as often, but I think for those family dynamics, this will be one that you can get to the table, good amount of times in a year. So I'm going to say thumbs up there. There are only really the one key to victory. You've got to score 100 points. And I will say that, well, it's there for an option. There's a lot of luck involved. You're hoping not to roll that sanity going over. It doesn't matter if you only make a 5-point word, because you could roll a 1. So this game may not be fair because of its unreliability. And you may decide that you're going to take it slow, but somebody else might say, hey, you know what? I don't care about my first 4 sanity. I'm going to spell the biggest words I can and get way ahead, whereas you might be trying to take the safe road and still take 2 or 3 hits on sanity and be like 40 points behind. To me, I feel like this game says you need to just ignore sanity and have to roll and expect the loss. And with that, I do think that's a thumbs down, because that's, to me, not a strong key to victory. It's telling you have to do it this way because that's the way to win. I don't think this game's unique. There's a lot of spelling games, there's a lot of Cthulhu games, and there's a lot of luck games. And this one, I haven't pulled out a lot lately because it is a game that when I think about it, I can play other games that are better. I'd rather play hardback if I'm going to play a spelling game. If I'm going to play a Cthulhu game, I'd rather pull out like Cthulhu Wars if I can get my hands on it. So for me, this game doesn't strike as unique. It's a thumbs down there. Overall, what do I think? I think that this game is fun, and that if you can get it into your collection, go pick it up. It's definitely a game that you're going to find you can play with a lot of different types of people, and when it gets to the Halloween season like we're in, this is a game that I like to pull out once in a while when I have the people who don't want to play a bigger game, because this is an easier to get to the table, and they can understand it pretty quickly. So overall, it's a good game. Give it a try. If you can pick it up and it's not too expensive, I think you should. And just see what you think. See if this game does hit for you. Maybe it's way better for you than it is for me. Or maybe it is just that October month type of game for you. Well, this has been day 90. And we have been speaking about Unspeakable Words. And you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description. If I can find a link on Amazon, I'm going to add it down there so you can pick this game up for yourself if you're interested. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.